Can the Minister update Parliament on the results of the review of the Open Merit Recruitment System Guideline announced by the Public Service Commission in 2018? Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Give the floor to the Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Civil Service and Communications, the Honourable Ayaz Said Kayum. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd like to thank the Honourable Kepa for this question. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Public Service Commission, on its own volition, decided to review the OMRS guidelines, and they had an independent assessment of the OMRS guidelines. The terms of the reference for the review was to undertake appropriate research and report on the outcomes of implementation across ministries in terms of staffing patterns and any early improvements in service delivery, and to identify any issues with the guideline with regard to training, operational issues, or other aspects that may require changes to the guideline or training provided. Mr. Speaker, sir, to achieve these terms of reference, the PSC considered the baseline report from 2015 regarding recruitment selection in the Fijian civil service and the documentation held in ministries, for example, job descriptions, selection reports, advertisements, and other central documentation, for example, payroll records, procedure review requests, and input from stakeholders, permanent secretaries, managers, staff, and applicants for positions in the civil service. The review found that the principles and structure of the Open Merit Recruitment and Selection Guidelines supported the permanent secretaries to operationalize their constitutional authority under Section 127 of the Fijian Constitution. The review found that overall the introduction of OMRS was having a positive effect and was leading to greater efficiency in recruitment and selection processes, with vacancies being processed faster than before its introduction, down to an average of less than 4 months, which we want to improve upon. Improvements in productivity and service delivery, and the introduction of new ideas and perspectives at all levels of the civil service, increased diversity across the civil service, and increased opportunities for advancement, in particular for women, with the recognition of the merit of individuals with different experience and from different backgrounds. The issues with the OMRS guideline were limited to procedure and administration, particularly with regard to the quality of job descriptions and the application of the merit process by panel members. These aspects, Mr. Speaker, sir, have been the focus for ongoing training with ministry staff since completion of the review. The availability of the procedure review process or appeals through the Public Service Commission is confirmed to be able to address these issues. In addition to the training I mentioned, Mr. Speaker, sir, minor administrative changes to the guideline were approved by the Public Service Commission as a result of the review, including clarifying the role of the HR department and introducing a maximum timeline for selection activities to be concluded. The Public Service Commission, of course, has incorporated these changes into their current OMRS guidelines, and they've also recently collected further data for an analysis of impact and commenced a deeper probe into how well the principles of OMRS are being realized by ministries and the gains that have been made from these activities, Mr. Speaker, sir. And the Commission hopes to get another further analysis by June of 2020. I would just, before I sit down, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd urge the Honourable Member to go to the PSC website. You'll find the OMRS guidelines that are there. It's up on the website for anyone to see. And you'll see within that, Mr. Speaker, sir, a number of 3 areas which I've got tagged here that were amended to take account of the submissions or the recommendations made by the review committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Honourable, you have the floor, ma'am.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker, sir. The Honourable Attorney General mentioned consultations with stakeholders. My question is in particular to the education sector, as most of the schools are owned by other groups and very few, less than 10% by government. So what kind of consultations were carried out with the stakeholders, the owners of these schools, that is the faith-based organizations, committees and other groups, teachers' unions, etc., prior to OMRS being implemented from 2015 in its early stages? Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I wish the Honourable Member had actually asked that question, which obviously was the real question. Before the OMRS was actually implemented, we had invited trade unions. In fact, we were part of the process. They attended some meetings they did not attend. So they were given equal opportunity to come and make their views known, at least the trade unions were. Thank you.
Honorable Nikanawai Kulam.
Honorable Speaker, when the government is recruiting under OMRS or open merit, to what extent does it take into account religion, faith, ethnicity, culture, tradition, previous experience, knowledge and maturity, things like that?
Honorable Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, sir, as the name suggests, it's based on merit. There are various, of course, qualifications. So if you are going to apply for the job of because they're talking about teachers, if you're going to apply for a job of a physical education teacher, and if you don't have any qualification in physical education, obviously you won't necessarily be considered for the job because you don't actually have some of those qualifications that is required for you to fulfill the job. In respect of faith issues, the members know very well the matter is before the courts, and I hope they're not trying to traverse into that area. But regarding the OMRS itself, Mr. Speaker, sir, when the job is actually advertised, it sets out the job description, and of course that is the guideline for any individual who is going to apply for the job. Unlike previously, where in the civil service, depending on how long you stayed in the civil service actually mattered. No, it does not. It actually depends on your ability, your proficiency, your ability to fulfill the job. And this is why I think a lot of the young people in the civil service who are capable young people, in fact, are getting into positions that previously would not have got into because they are now being appointed on merit as opposed to being based purely on just seniority. Thank you.
I thank the last supplementary question. I give the floor to
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
You have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, the OMRS is more or less like a system adopted, a cut and paste product of Western important that is already creating a lot of collision head on. My question is that why there is a difference in salary between a new graduate who has a degree, who gets 26,000, and a experienced teacher, 10 years on the field, who acquired a degree with 22,000. Thank you.
Honorable Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the honourable member, I couldn't really understand half what you said, but I assume you're talking about the difference in salaries, and that's to do with specific positions. That's obviously a completely different question altogether. If he brings that question, I can answer the question. I don't have the figures here, statistics with me, which I can provide you if you really want a good answer. Thank you.
That's the end of the process. We'll move on to the next question. The second oral question for today. Give the floor to the Honorable